So basically, what I thought we'd do today is two things really, which I hope we can cover in the session. A, to obviously have a look at the play. So it's kind of a workshop or discussion or whatever, learning about it. That A, you can perhaps get an insight into Trev's very specific way of rehearsing, but also a little bit of looking at the play as well and trying to unlock elements of the text. What we'll do first of all, do many of you know each other very well? Probably not, one or two faces. I think we should all just spend a little bit of time just kind of getting to know each other in a way that we, as a company of 23, to begin with, had to do exactly the same thing. So let's get up on our feet. Stop! Find the person nearest to you. Just pair up. And what you're going to do, you are going to tell your partner everything you've done today from when you've got up. But while you're doing that, your partner's going to do exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's really good to just be thrown into things. Sort of go, this is kind of how we work and now we're going to do it. So I guess that practical way of learning is really useful.
You are going to tell your partner what they have done, and they're going to tell you what you have done at exactly the same time. So you see how much you've listened to each other. Off you go. This time, you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to tell your favourite fairy tale to each other. All right? So you think of a fairy tale, and you're going to tell each other the fairy tale simultaneously. And remember, as you're talking and telling the story, you've also got to listen. Okay, 1 minute, off you go.
She noticed there was a knot in her hair.
Well, the exercise we did at the beginning was fantastic. The being able to listen while you're communicating at the same time, that was fantastic, and I really am going to use that in rehearsals. And I'm not going to be, precious about it and say that I invented it, just because it's really, really great. Not only between actors on stage, but also between actors on stage and their audiences, being able to deliver something and to feed back from them. So that's what I'm going to take.
Stop. Find a partner. Make sure it's someone you haven't worked with yet today. You don't have to sit down for this one. But what you can do now, you're going to make up a story on the spot. Okay? So you don't need to think it, you're just going to make up a story on the spot. But as you're doing this story, you need to really communicate it to your partner. So you can use gesture, movement, anything you like. But it's not just about talking this time. It's about displaying and using physicality as well.
And she was working away and she
We're going to do that again. But as you're telling your partner's story, with all the gestures, all the animation, all the silly movements they did, you have got to make it clear to them that this story is the most ridiculous, stupid story that you have ever heard in your life. And your job is to tell them how ridiculous this story is, with all the gestures, with all the movements, with all the animation. Off you go.
It made you realise how much you don't listen to people when they're talking to you. It's just like every day as well, when you sort of go, how are you? I'm fine, it's so, especially actors are really selfish often, just kind of talking about them, thinking about themselves and what they're doing, so that I think is really useful.
Okay, so inherit the wind. Sorry, this is my little sheet of paper. Yes, so we've touched on the idea of the play being a debate. But within that, also is this idea of freedom of thought, which is a very important thing that the play wants you to understand, as every human being has the right to think.
It gave us an idea about what it might be like to work on a production like Inherit the Wind with an assistant like Michael.
It also gave you an insight of how they approached the text, which is really, really interesting, because often you see the play and you're like, oh, I wonder how they arrived at that decision, or I wonder how they did that. So it gave a nice insight of how they approached it in their rehearsal process, which is great.
Put yourself now in 1925, Dayton, Tennessee, a very small town, without thinking about it too much. What's your profession? What do you do in this town? Are you a housewife? Are you a teacher at school? It doesn't matter. We're not going to share it. But just so you know, come up with something in that town.
And all his handiwork bowed before him, and he said, "It is not good. It is not enough. It is not finished."
The case for the defense is a lawyer named Henry Drummond. Can you tell me about him?
I saw Drummond once.
Have you found it a good experience to meet these different people and to kind of work in this environment?
I think you always learn quite a lot from other people all the time, and it's nice to see people you know, but equally it's great to see how you work with people that you don't know.
There's a very hard thing that you're just not listening. So therefore, what you guys are doing, which is absolutely brilliant, what I wanted to happen, is you guys are just reacting without listening and without really having a thought-through response.
Yeah, I found what he was saying about how himself and Trevor Nunn make everybody have a backstory is really important, because I think it's quite easy, especially when you're in your ensemble, to just sort of assume that just doing what you do is enough. But I think that's something that I'm going to take with me, definitely, that everybody on that stage has a story, even if it's not written down in the script. You're within the narrative no matter who you are.
And you're just as important as the person that's doing all the speaking, I suppose, because
I want you to walk towards them.
Whoever you are in the ensemble, there wouldn't be the ensemble kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's also what I love today is when he did the bit about listening and relating, reacting, talking at the same time.
So
I think
hard.
it's such a good skill though to have, like, as an actor, because obviously on stage that's what you should be doing at all times. But when he made us do the beginning exercises today, they were really, really difficult. We were together, actually, one of them, we were going, this is so hard. But it actually makes you go, God, I should be able to do that much easier. So it kind of makes you think, oh, that's something I should work on.
Do you remember my story?
I
remember a bit of yours.
Boris the monster,
Boris
who
the
had
monster.
tentacles coming out his head and no one liked him, not even the dog.
That's the one.
That's a very upsetting story.
He was really
It's quite
upset.
sad.
I'm really sorry to hear about that. But
Thanks, Tom.
you can tell us about that later.
Oh.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.